All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mikayla, and my internship project was leveraging AI for student assessment and dynamic content creation in education. For the duration of my internship, I undertook a role as a software developer at Numberworks and Word's head office. For reference, I've also been a senior maths tutor at my local Numberworks centre for almost 6 years now. I'll start by giving a brief overview of the company to give a better understanding of how everything works in relation to the project details. So, who are Numberworks and Words? They're an in-person tuition company that offer both maths and English tuition for 5 to 17-year-olds. Each student works on a personalised program that caters towards their individual goals and needs, and I think it's important to note that the tuition software is a tool for the tutors to teach the students. It's not that the software is expected to do all of the teaching in this company. There has been a recent and undergoing rewrite of the tuition software entirely, so it's shifted from a localised Delphi platform to a web-based application. The stack for the tuition software which I worked on was a TypeScript front-end with a Postgres database and a Node.js and Koa back-end in place of the typical Express.js a lot of you are probably used to. Each centre runs on a localised server that runs on Docker, and each centre also connects to an AWS cloud server which updates frequently. 3 keywords that we used a lot were dev, alpha and prod. So from all 72 centres worldwide, there are about 6 alpha centres. These are the centres that we deploy any new deployments to first to test any bugs, features, and monitor anything that goes out before anything goes out to prod centres every Thursday. The first and biggest component of my project was creating a feature that provided automated feedback for student assessments using AI. The primary goal of this feature was to gain a deeper understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of students to provide better targeted and personalised learning experiences for them. This feature would provide critical analysis and feedback based on the 6 traits of writing under the structured literacy approach. Implementing this feature as a feature flag meant it could be easily tested on the alpha centres individually and provide different access levels to the students versus the tutors and the managers in the centres, and ensuring we could easily revoke access from people if we needed to. Before I could start any implementation of the project itself, I had to meet with various members of the development, training and content teams to fully understand the requirements of implementing a new marking system. As I'm not an English tutor, it was also crucial that I had some understanding of what was expected of the students across different levels, as well as navigating the coding monster that was the many intertwined components of the existing marking systems. Once I had the basic design requirements underway, I was able to implement a mock-up of the features and the drop-down boxes to figure out how it would work within the system, and I will show that soon. This feature also uses OpenAI's GPT models, which I was familiar with from my group project in CompSci 732 the previous semester. A huge part of this project was prompt engineering and researching how we could effectively provide high-quality outputs that are useful to the tutors, and ensuring that we could get the most out of ChatGPT efficiently, because it's a very new and changing tool. About 5 to 6 weeks into the internship, when we were really reasonably confident with the results we were receiving, we deployed to the alpha centres and about to production centres a week later, where I monitored how many requests were going through, the cost of each request, and any errors that users were experiencing. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks after deployment, we started seeing a really high increase in errors, and about 85% of the time the results were not providing proper formats to the users. Thankfully though, this was the same week that fine-tuning for GPT 3.5 was released. So next went back onto the research and going back into how we could utilise fine-tuning to improve this feature. The first step in fine-tuning our GPT model was creating a set of training data that included, at this stage, about 75 pieces of student writing across different student ages and writing types. I manually hand-marked all 75 pieces of student work, which was incredibly time-consuming, and provided my own feedback and analysis in accordance to what we were expecting from the fine-tune model. Once that was complete, I could upload the training data to OpenAI and create our very own fine-tuned analysis GPT model. The results of testing showed that this was a significant improvement from our first version, and both the consistency and quality of the outputs were far better than we could have expected with the first version. And then the fine-tuned version and the current version of the automated AI was released, so that's been sitting in production for almost 2 months now. So, how does it work? In version 1, the model had to be provided with an example of the expected output, whereas the fine-tuned model was able to learn the expected output from the training data and be far more consistent with the result formats. This meant I could provide the model with more useful information, such as the task instructions provided to the student, how long they spent on the task. Was it 15 minutes or did they have a few hours? Were they working behind level? Were they working at their expected age, or were their working level not lined up with their actual age? Once the student first submits their writing, the marking will show from their accounts as shown on the screen, a blank version of the 6 traits. It was important for us that the students did not have access to this AI feature. So to access the student marking, the managers and tutors have to log into their own accounts to process it. The manual marking styles can be overridden though from the students' accounts, which was important that we could do some stuff with the students. Rate limiting was also implemented to ensure that centres could not complete too many requests within a short amount of time, but also individual accounts were also limited. Once the managers do log into their own accounts, the marking page will trigger the AI response, and they will see something like this. Each trait will have a relative score between 0 to 3 stars and a summary for each trait, as well as 2 to 4 bullet points of specific feedback and improvements on how the student could improve that trait is provided. At the bottom of the 6 traits, there will also be a recommendation of the 2 traits that require the most work and what the tutor should probably focus on first. Because of the lot of students attending NumberWorks typically have weaker conventions, such as spelling, punctuation, and grammar, it was important that 2 traits were provided to ensure that we did have an alternate goal to focus on during writing time. Some of the key results from this part of the project was that it provided a more accurate, detailed, and specific analysis than the version 1, and it also, the fine-tuned version, decreased the error rate by 98%. I also had a couple of franchisees reach out with some of their positive experiences before I left my internship. One said that the analysis gave a number of useful suggestions that they would not have thought of. For example, a student had written a persuasive essay about babysitting, and the tool suggests that they include something about the benefits of first aid training. Another said that it gave them a lot more confidence reporting to parents because they had real results to lean back on and they weren't just coming up with feedback themselves. Building client relations when introducing new technology is pivotal. Therefore, clear communication to franchisees about the artificial intelligence was essential. During the project, I had to make a few posts to franchisees about how everything worked and all of the updates that were coming out. And after deployment, I was in frequent communication with various franchisees to prompt them in accessing and using the feedback properly, as well as identifying and fixing any errors that occurred. Having been an end user of the software myself, I understood the frustrations of lots of new updates and the odd bug that would occur during class time. This is why I really prioritise building positive relationships with the franchisees when I had the chance, and ensuring I was able to address any questions quickly. I think this approach really paid off, as I had a few franchisees personally reach out and thank me for helping them understand more about the technologies involved. Secondly, it was pertinent that I maintained a high level of business ethics throughout my project. Implementing AI in a business can be a big change for people. So we made sure to introduce myself and the automated feedback project to all franchisees early on, making sure we directly addressed the direction that the company was taking regarding AI and in what capacities they planned to use it for. As I was also developing a feature that had associated costs with using the API, I had to cautiously calculate and justify the feasibility of upgrading and using these features to management. This leads into the application of theory and knowledge practice in my internship. So although I undertook this internship in a software development role, Infosys 703, Managing with AI, was an important paper for me. In this paper, we held lots of valuable discussions about particular case studies and implementation strategies of AI in businesses. Having taken this paper is what I believe made me cautious of communication and setting expectations with the franchisees for artificial intelligence. I knew that it was important for everyone to understand just how this tool worked and that it wouldn't give a perfect result every single time because that's just how generative AI works. And there would be limitations on what results we could achieve based on certain time-cost trade-offs. The second paper that gave me a great foundation into my internship was CompSci 732. I really enjoyed the larger group-scale project that provided many avenues for self-teaching and exploration. My group utilised a project that used the same OpenAI API which I used in my project, just on a smaller scale. This was what I found made the process relatively quick in setting up that back-end side of it. Not only were the modern web development skills taught in this course directly applicable to my internship, but I also had the encouragement to apply critical problem-solving skills to create something that we were passionate about, and that was a great motivator to discover and learn these new technologies. One of the key attributes I faced in this internship was proactive feedback engagement. I learnt to take responsibility for my own work, and I found that in some of my earlier pull requests, I felt quite guarded with some of the feedback and that I was getting, but upon looking at other people's PRs, I noticed it was completely normal and part of the process. It also taught me to seek help sooner rather than later. I had one point where a task I was on was blocked for a little bit longer than it probably should have been, and I was determined to show that I was capable of working it out myself because I knew it wasn't completely difficult. Upon talking to another co-worker about it, though, I realised that it was a quick issue to pinpoint and I probably should have asked for help sooner. This has helped me to shift my mindset to regularly reflect on my work and self-review my own work as I go. Another attribute I feel I developed was something I had a unique standpoint with in this internship was user-centric advocacy. I spent a lot of time in the software with students and creating their lesson plans, so I felt I had a pretty good understanding of what a user would expect going into this internship. Through supporting some of the support requests that came through from users, though, I've also realised that my experience as a user does not necessarily reflect the experience of all users. This had made me a more cautious developer who now stops to consider the experience and users of these, or who these users are likely to encompass more, as well as advocating for what these users expected when I had the opportunity to during stand-ups and that. Reflecting on my experience as an intern with my family had me drawing similarities to building a house. The foundations of my house, or my undergraduate study in computer and information sciences, laid the foundational groundwork and gave me the core skills and concepts I could do to enter this MIT degree. A combination of my undergraduate project in my third year and the taught course component of the MIT degree created the walls of this house and provided me the skills to become a better developer and a learner. Finally, as a hands-on learner, the roof of my house, or the internship, became the completion of my journey as a university student and provided me with the skills and the experience to properly step out into the real world and live in this house that I have built for myself. Unfortunately, with 15 minutes, I wasn't able to discuss the content generation portion of my project, but I will end there and thank you all for listening.